Sigh. The Olympics start this week, in a few days, no less. So it's been, of course, all Olympic news, which is fair. I mean, even if there wasn't a pandemic going on, in which case I think we should not have the Olympics at all, this week would be the week to have Olympic news. But of course, it's all kind of frustrating. I don't know. I don't know how you actually say. I'm still moving stuff around. Oh, this is quite good. I put my notes up on my keyboard up against the screen so I can look basically forward. I still have to look down, but I need to get like a clip thing that is up by the microphone, up by the camera. But anyways, we're not going to do that. A 20-year-old weightlifter from Uganda decided that life in Uganda was too hard and Japan was too beautiful. So he said, screw this, I'm out. He left a note saying he wanted to work in Japan. And life is difficult back home. And the police are now searching for him because you're not allowed to do that. It's too bad because what he's saying is he actually wants to be like a refugee. He's kind of used the Olympics to get to a country that he considers in a more prosperous situation than he was in, with more possibilities, more future. And he's probably going to get arrested and deported for it because he's clearly breaking the terms of his visa. He didn't apply for refugee status in advance. You can't just take off. He should have applied for refugee status during the Olympics. If he'd won a gold medal, I bet they would have made him a Japanese citizen. Just thought of that now. That's actually very possible. That's how dumb countries are. Is that if you win gold, you must have the Japanese spirit so much that you're actually Japanese. He was last seen in Nagoya, which is the city I work in. So there is a chance that I might cross paths with this Ugandan weightlifter and he might lift me up. I'm sorry that I can't lift him up. I hope it works out. To bail on the Olympics so that you can try to just get a job somewhere, and I assume he doesn't speak Japanese, he's got to be in a tough spot. I actually feel a lot of sympathy for him because it's got to be tough coming from a country that's got any sort of difficulties, and then coming to a place, Japan, that is incredibly prosperous, very clean and safe, and all the things that you kind of dream of having. And then, all right, 2 weeks, you got to go home again, back to where it's all really tough. I then immediately started thinking about the lifestyle of the weightlifters that I know. They spend all their time lifting weights. I don't know. It's a different lifestyle. You're not working if you're lifting weights all the time. Maybe he's willing to give that up for a better life in Japan. So I'm just going to do all the Olympic news. It's going to be like 90%, I think, of it today. The chief of the International Olympic Committee has come to Japan, and he has said some dumb shit. Okay. He said the risk of the COVID spread due to the Olympics is 0. So now we know that people have already come in with COVID. An Olympic gymnast, an American gymnast, I think, has just been diagnosed with COVID. They're doing testing every single day. It's grandiose statements of 100% certainty are a problem, is my first thought, because it's going to spread the virus. So even if you just have volunteers in the Olympic Village and stuff, there's some people have it in there, it's going to spread around. Those people are going to leave. Like, I know they're not supposed to. They're supposed to maintain social distancing and follow all the rules and stuff. They're not going to do that because they're humans, and you try to lock them down, the first thing they want to do is leave. If it was voluntary, people do it. But when you force people to do stuff, they rebel against it. There's just sort of this innate instinct for certain groups. The chief of the IOC is clearly an idiot. That's just the short version. They're doing a press conference, and they're making a huge deal out of this. There's a couple of issues that are being made into massive deals. This is where you realize that adults are not really adults anymore. So during a press conference, chief of the IOC, he's talking about how well prepared the Japanese people are. And he says Chinese. The number one thing is to keep the Chinese people safe. I mean, Japanese people. And then he moves on. So he was thinking about different countries, different places. He's thinking about coronavirus. He's talking about countries and stuff. And it was a slip of the tongue. It's completely innocent. He corrects himself immediately. He knows he said the wrong thing. People lose their minds. Now, there's a lot of anti-Chinese sentiment in Japan. So any opportunity to get angry, these people take it. They get angry. And then there's like accusations of racism that he can't tell Asian people apart and stuff. It's really silly because it was just a slip of the tongue. If you've watched me try to struggle my way through 20 minutes of speaking on Ninja News Japan, I make slips of the tongue all the time. If you wanted to be angry about it, you absolutely could get angry about it. It wouldn't do you any good. But yeah, I just make mistakes and I correct myself and you move on. If he didn't correct himself, if he just like left it sitting there and moved on or kept saying Chinese people, then there's an issue. I would consider it more of an issue with his understanding of the world at large and why is he the IOC chief. But I think this was just a mistake and it's not really the news story they're making it out to be. To demonstrate my previous point, people not following the rules and being bad. 4 Olympic staffers. So these were people who worked from February to May. They were maintaining electrical systems for Olympic venues. So they're basically they're either building it or trying to make sure it was up to code or make sure it was safe. These were guys from the UK and the US. At 8 p.m., they were out drinking in Roppongi. Later that evening, the 22-year-old guy. So it was weird to me actually at first as a 22-year-old and like a 40-year-old. I'm like, if they work together, okay, suddenly it makes sense that they're drinking together. It's just after work. For some reason, the 22-year-old thinks it's a good idea to go break into the residence of a Japanese person. So he basically goes and breaks into someone's house. Then they get arrested. Whoa, big surprise. I wonder, do they think because they're in Japan? So in Japan, you're probably going to break into someone's house and not get shot. But do you think you're not going to get in trouble? Do you think they're going to be like, oh, welcome to my house, sit down and join us for dinner? Or, we're not going to call it. What are you thinking? Because it doesn't sound like he did anything. I don't know what they don't actually get into the details of like the confrontation, like the family. Did they hide, or did they come out and try to stop him? When you get arrested, they do a pee test, and there was cocaine in his urine. And the people who were with him, because that guy had cocaine in his urine, they grabbed those guys up and they tested them as well, and they all had cocaine. So 4 people have been arrested for cocaine usage. Of course they were. Because these guys are idiots. Yes, an Olympic U.S. gymnast tested positive for corona, immediately countering the statement that the IOC chief said. There's 2 more stories. No. I've actually written down the same story more than once. That's how messed up my head is. 2 big stories. 2 big stories. There you go. There's another one that's story. Okay, we'll do the smaller story, then the 2 big stories, and then we'll go on with that. The South Korean Prime Minister was in talks to come for the opening ceremony. See, I just misspoke. I'm not racist. The South Korean Prime Minister was in talks to come and attend the opening ceremony of the Olympics, which is, pretty nice. Japan and Korea have a very contentious relationship. But I think both countries kind of want it to get better, but then they have these like hardliners who don't want it to get better. So they were in talks, and it seems like a senior diplomat made a comment. And the comment was that the Prime Minister of South Korea is in a tug of war with himself over sort of repairing the relationship between the 2 countries. A tug of war with himself, I don't know if this is a Japanese idiom. A tug of war with himself, I don't know if it's a Japanese idiom because I didn't actually read the Japanese version of this story, is apparently a euphemism for masturbation. So he's masturbating over the concept of whether or not to improve relations with Japan. And so tug of war would imply that he wants to improve the relationship and then wants to not improve the relationship and then like flip-flops back and forth. Apparently that's not what he's saying. He's saying he's just sitting around doing nothing. Luckily, the senior diplomat who made these statements, interesting that this is supposed to be a senior diplomat. You think senior diplomats would be a tad more diplomatic. So luckily, the senior diplomat did what, of course, something that's going to completely fix the situation. He retracted his statement. I have now multiple times made it very clear that I think the idea of retracting a statement is ridiculous, because you can't make a statement and then just say I retract it, and then everyone's like, oh well, then that's fine. You didn't say, you retracted it. You never said it in the first place, as far as we are concerned. It's just so stupid. Yeah, ridiculous. Okay, now we get into the big stories that hit the news. This is the biggest story that hit the news. It happened sort of yesterday, maybe the day before, all night, and then it's still going in today, because there is a music composer. He's in his 50s now, and he was making the music for both the Olympics and the Paralympics, the opening ceremony and stuff like that. He was composing the music for it. This is a big deal. If you make music, composing the music for a significant event that's going to be televised around the world, that's a big deal. Turns out back in 1994 and 1995, there are articles and interviews with him where he was boasting about bullying his classmates, particularly disabled ones. You can see the first issue. You don't want someone who's sort of proud of the days when they used to bully disabled people making music for the Paralympics, where you're supposed to be promoting that these people, they might be differently able, but they are certainly just as capable as everyone else. I have watched some of the Paralympics, and I watched a guy with one arm do a clean jerk with a weight I could not even conceive of lifting. So respect. I mean, that's just straight up. That's respect. So then he apologized. So he said, oh, I'm sorry. Back in 94, 95, I was really proud of those things. And this is really close to the beginning of the Olympics. Again, like a few days later, the Olympics are supposed to start. And so the Olympic Committee said, no, we're not going to fire him. And then, oh shit, the internet went wild, was like, I'm sorry, you have a guy who is admitted to being proud of bullying disabled people in the Olympics and the Paralympics. It's funny because the stories only talk about the Olympics. It's the Paralympics one that gets me. Like, unless this guy is the source of inspiration for someone to aspire to be a better, stronger person, and then they end up in the Paralympics. Even then, he's the bad guy in that story. So they fired him. Oh, no, he resigned. He didn't get fired. But they're clearly like, shit, man, this isn't going to work out. We can fire you or you can quit. So he quit. Now, apparently, he feels deep regret. And yeah, I'm betting if you take away all the money he was supposed to get, I bet he does feel deep regret. An assholes all around, man. The beds in the Olympic Village. There have been some interesting comments about them because they're made of sort of a thick cardboard, and the idea is supposed to be sustainable. Athletes immediately went in and said, these are designed to be anti-sex. Sparked speculation online. So again, there's this whole thing about sex in the Olympics. I did my whole Thor and Wonder Woman fanfic / fiction about the fact that you're not going to stop people in top physical condition who are attractive from banging. And then these people are like, oh, the beds aren't strong enough to support people. So there's a couple of interesting things that came out. The manufacturer. So one athlete said these are anti-sex beds. Another athlete went in and started jumping on the bed and it didn't collapse. So he said, no, they're fine. The Tokyo Olympic Village organizers said these beds are sturdy. Then the manufacturer came in and said, these are designed for up to 200 kilograms of weight. So this is a quote, as long as they stick to just 2 people in the bed, they should be strong enough to support the load. It's interesting you have this company that has to come out and say that. I actually was thinking the 200 kilograms isn't much because I'm, let's say, 90 kilos, and my partner is, let's say we get to 150. So that's under the load. But with activity, with pummel horsing, there's a gymnastics term, the downward force could go beyond 200 kilograms and collapse the bed. But I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying, like, if you're talking about the chin-up bar that you can see in behind me, it's weighted to 100 or 150 kilos. But if I started swinging on it, the fact that I'm only 100 kilos or 90 kilos or whatever, when you hit the down sort of, I don't know, the bottom, the the bottom apex, there you go, me misspeaking again, of the arc as I swing, that's not going to be 100, 150 kilos. All that weight and gravity and force actually increase it. It multiplies it an incredible amount. I did like that they said if they just stick to two people. So if the Olympic athletes get into like threesomes and sort of other combinations, they're saying then we can't actually say that the beds are safe enough. You got to be careful. And then I started thinking, how many gymnasts is that? Because gymnasts are always tiny. So it's going to be like 2 heavyweight judo guys or 6 gymnasts, or 1 heavyweight judo guy and 3 gymnasts. And then you just start working on combinations, which is just ridiculous. Anyways, really, the first thing I thought when I saw this story was, who cares about the bed? So you go to have sex in the bed and it cracks or it falls down or something. That would not stop me personally. If I was, again, in my Wonder Woman Thor fanfic / fiction, and I was Thor in that situation, if the bed collapsed, I would not stop. Mjolnir would come to me just the same. It was a very clumsy euphemism because I hadn't thought about it in advance. This is important. If you're going to make euphemism jokes, you actually have to think about them in advance because you're going to have to refine it. And you want it to come out smoothly, and I just did not do it. So that was a bit of a failure on my part, and I apologize. These beds, on the other hand, are fine. The beds are fine. The IOC chief, again, he actually said that Tokyo is the best ever prepared Olympic host city, despite the fact we're in the middle of a pandemic and the numbers have gone up significantly from previous months. Japan's top COVID advisor says we need a new approach as current restrictions are becoming ineffective. If you have followed along with me in Engineers Japan over the last year plus, you know my opinion that the restrictions in Japan were never effective. They're not becoming less effective. They are not effective from the beginning. And they never were effective because you never did anything effectively. That is all the Corona news. Yeah, it's just about the Olympics. So I got a couple other little stories and then some other stuff to play with. But let me transition. I had never heard of this type of grape, the ruby Roman grape. So we're talking about every year there's auctions and stuff, and they'll sell like a melon, a watermelon or something. They sell for like thousands and thousands of dollars. This is a bunch of ruby Roman grapes have sold for 1.4 million yen. Now, the thing that I was looking at was the actual grapes themselves. Now, the grapes themselves, how many grapes do you get for 1.4 million yen? Because I was thinking it should be a lot. The image of, if you're listening on the podcast, you can't see it. The image I have up on the screen is the grapes themselves. The visible ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, let's say. Now they're wrapped up in a bunch. So that bunch probably, it's either 2 or 3 times what I just said. So it's either going to be 24 or 36 grapes total for 1.4 million yen. That's a lot of money for a very small amount of grapes because I personally could eat that many grapes. And that's the thing, like 1.4 million yen for a very small amount of grapes. What are you going to do with the grapes that is so valuable to be worth the money? Now, the interesting thing, the guy who bought them said, I want to introduce Ruby Roman to the people of Taiwan. When you think about the producer's year of hard work, 1.4 million yen is cheap. I quite appreciated that attitude. What he's saying is like the effort the farmer put into making these exquisite grapes is worth the money. That is the closest justification for an exorbitant amount of money spent on something that I can actually accept. Because what he's saying is, it's not the grapes that I'm paying for, it's the labor to create this wonderful product. So that's awesome. He has 1.4 million yen to throw away. Introducing Ruby Roman grapes to the people of Taiwan, unless he's planning of transplanting them to Taiwan and actually growing them from those grapes, would actually would be not a terrible idea, because that would be worth 1.4 million yen. He's really only going to make one dish or one dessert out of it, or it's going to be an ingredient in a few dishes. Then it's done, because you only have 36 grapes at maximum. And are they all good? Like, let's say out of those 36, only 30 good. There's like six like sour ones. I guess when you spent that much money, you would mentally convince yourself that it was good anyways. Like, oh, this is a unique experience. The one bad one makes the other ones all the sweeter. That's the kind of dumb shit people say to themselves. Japan has broken the record for sending data over the internet. Who cares? Actually, I do care. Because I mean, that just means overall it's going to get better. The previous record was 178 terabytes per second. Japan just killed it with 319 terabytes per second. It was over advanced advanced fiber optics. I misspoke again. Advanced fiber optics in a lab, so it was lab conditions. It wasn't in the wild, and they simulated it going 1,864 miles. So pretty far. I don't really need speeds like that, but it's good to know that what the future holds. They were also talking about making 5G go over television airwaves, primarily because hardly anyone watches television anymore. My kids are now growing up with television is less of what they watch. They spend most of their time on devices like YouTube and stuff. Okay, this is a video game story, and it's interesting to me because of my history with this publisher's games, as in I've played pretty much all of them. There's a video game series called Yakuza, and I started playing it when I came to Japan. Over the last 6 or 7 years, I've played one every year, I think. We're getting close to, there's only one or two left that I haven't played, and I'm going to play one I have on my PlayStation right now, and then another one coming up after that. Last year, I played Judgment, which is same game. It's just Yakuza, only instead of playing a Yakuza, you are playing a private detective. It was, the reason it was a big deal is because it's starring this guy called Kim Taku. And he's super famous. He's like one of the most famous guys in Japan. He would be one of the few people, like a famous Japanese person, that I would just recognize and actually know his name. There's lots of Japanese people who are famous that I recognize that I wouldn't know their name. And there's a lot of people who are famous and maybe I've heard their name, but I couldn't actually put it to a face. I could tell you if it was a comedian or not or something like that. Kim Taku is one of those guys, like I, as someone who isn't really as plugged into Japanese media as you might think, actually recognizes and know who he is and what he does. It was a PlayStation exclusive, and that was great. The problem has come up, is that they want to go multi-platform. So they want to put it on the Xbox, not a big deal. They want to put it on the Switch, not a big deal. They want to put it on PC. That's the problem. That's the big deal. Kim Taku works for a company called Johnny's and Associates, and they produce boy bands. What these companies do more than anything else is try to control the image of their, I was about to say actors, employees, because these is a singer, pop idols and stuff. Image is very important. And what happens when you put something on PC? If you put something on PC, people modify it. And the one mod I was thinking about was a nude mod, or you change his face to look silly, or you put dumb clothes on him or something like that. What Johnny's really doesn't want is the image of Kim Taku modified in any way by users who might do something to make him look bad. Now, Kim Taku has actually said he himself plays the game and he doesn't want them to end. And I was actually thinking, like, because Yakuza had essentially a no-name actor be the main character, and they did motion capture and stuff, but he became the face of it. Bringing Kim Taku, I always wondered, did Kim Taku play Yakuza and want to be in on it? It's kind of like who approached who. So did Kim Taku come to them and say, I want to be the hero in one of your Yakuza video games, or I want to be in one of your Yakuza video games? The Yakuza video games have always had really famous Japanese actors as bad guys and other characters and stuff. So like they'll come on screen and have an introduction, and my wife will know immediately who they are. Oh, he's really famous. Or did the video game company go to Kimtaku and say, we would like to, take this in a new direction. We'd like you to be the face of the video games. But what they're saying is, because there's one more coming out, there's Lost Judgment is the next game in this series. It's coming out this year, maybe next year. They're saying it might be the last in this series because if they can't get it onto PC, then they're saying it's not financially viable. The Judgment sold like 1 million copies, which is good. But they're saying if it was on PC, we could sell 1 million more. If it was on Xbox, we could sell 500,000 more. So if it doesn't go multi-platform, they're saying like, we're now just getting to a point where the production is so expensive or whatever. Or we're paying Kimtaku so much money, it's not worth it if we don't get it on multiple platforms. So they're at sort of an impasse. And I don't actually see how they could get out of it. Kimtaku could threaten to leave Johnny's. That would probably be it. But he actually like screwed over his bandmates to demonstrate loyalty to them. So that's probably not going to happen. If they want a new face for a Yakuza-like series, I have a face. And I got no problem quitting my job now and becoming the face of Yakuza, or what do we call it? It's not going to be a private detective. Just clumsy foreign guy in Japan. There you go. And I'll do it. And if they want to modify it so I'm nude, I'll help them. I did a throwaway comment where I said, what did I say? I burped on stream. And then I said, I'm worried about fetishists coming in and talking about, paying me money for burping. Then I turned it around and said, I will burp for money. If you want me to wear stockings, I'll wear stockings. And I cut that and made it a TikTok. Violated terms of services, I think, because I offered to burp for money. So I'm now, every time I like burp or something, I'm really conscious of it. I can't make that into a joke that I put on TikTok. Don't want to get banned from a platform I barely use. This is interesting. One of the actors in Judgment, he got arrested for cocaine usage, I think. Probably just usage. He was really famous. And what they did is they just took him out. They had another actor come in and redo his lines and just changed his face. Because this is computers now. If you watched, what is it, Army of the Dead, or the zombie movie that came out really with Dave Bautista really recently. One of the guys in that got in trouble. The helicopter pilot got in trouble for doing something. I think he was assaulting people. I didn't follow that part of the story. They actually took him out digitally and then took the comedian Tig Notaro and put her in. She's the helicopter pilot. She's not in that movie with any of the other actors. She was filmed after the movie was complete and then digitally inserted. With a video game, that's even easier. So if they want to take out Kimtaku and put me in, I'm in. I'm ready. Put me in, coach. Put me in cold.
You can tweet questions or comments at Ninja News Japan or join the Facebook group. On Facebook, search for Ninja News Japan. Sexy out, homie.
So that's all going to change. I was actually yesterday re-recording those with a different computer voice. But let me get this up on the screen. I don't need that anymore. So a few weeks ago, I did a thing where I was talking about cops in Japan, and they were taking down some people who were drunk and stuff and how they do it. And then someone sent me this, and I'm going to just make sure the sound is off. Get the sound just a little bit. This is a guy who is in Nagoya Station, again, the city I work in. So it's actually very real for me. And it's hard to see here, but he's walking around. He's just walking around, but right there, that's a knife. He's actually just walking around with a knife in his hand. It's out in the open. That is threatening. It's dangerous. You got to be careful. So he's got that jittery hand. That's actually a bad sign. And then we kind of missed it. This police officer has a shield, and she's just trying to clamp him down. And I think when she hits him, he actually drops the knife. Yeah, the knife just fell down behind her leg there, and the other cop's just trying to get him under control. I think that's his hand. It's hard to see. Yep. So he's got a red glove on. He's got his arm around. He's got a baton. He hasn't hit him with the baton. The police officer lady's hat fell off. There's the knife over there. And then they take him to the ground, and they're just using weight. These aren't judo techniques like I was in the other one. This is just weight. Now we've had the introduction of a third character. This is Sato the delivery man. Sato the delivery man apparently is completely unaware of what's going on around him at all times, because two police officers are taking a guy to a ground, and he has yet to notice, despite the fact they're basically bumping into him. You can actually, she shouts at him to go away. Get that up. So she just shouted like, "Dude, look out!" I didn't hear it well enough to actually know. "Dude, look out!" You can see he's turned around and been like, "Whoa, there is a 3-person conflict happening right behind me that I just walked right past." Sato, seriously, man, get your shit together. That belt's way too big for you too, dude. I mean, and your mask should cover your nose. There's no point in wearing the mask if you don't cover your nose. So, Sato, I mean, it's just another day in Sato's life. He didn't notice cops taking down a criminal with a knife. He hasn't bought a belt that's appropriate sized, and he doesn't know how to wear a mask. Oh, wait, I'll just wander over here and get my cart again and then walk off like almost nothing's happening. All these other people, they seem to be like half trying to decide whether to help or not. Honestly, it's probably better in this case, since the cops have this under control, to do nothing at all. Now the police officer lady's handcuffing him. Half these Japanese guys are standing around going like, "This is like a fetish I've had my whole life." That guy's so lucky because we're still in Japan. I like the like, should I come up and help? This physical posture. It's like the should I walk over there? I really want to help, but I don't want to interfere. I don't want to get in the way. There's just a hesitancy about his whole existence. It's very, again, all very Japanese. And then who's this guy? He's wearing this. I think he's probably staff at the mall, but I don't think he's really helping out. He's got his legs crossed. He's very, very casual about being arrested. They never got into how or why this guy was carrying the knife, or if he was actually like after someone specific, or he was just going to start stabbing. There have been some crimes in Japan multiple times where, that hand is what I noticed first. There's been multiple times in Japan where people have just gone and gotten a knife and just start stabbing people. So it's basically a mass shooting in Japan would be a mass stabbing. And they've had people do it in like old age homes and in like kindergartens and stuff. It's all pretty awful. Watch this hand. This hand is, to me, a sign of adrenaline jacking up, like he's working up to something. It's a sign that he's already on edge. It is actually really bad. This would be like a cat flicking its tail back and forth. That little jittery hand, like, oh, I'm ready to go. I'm going to stab someone. He's working up to it. And then we unfortunately missed the hit. So she doesn't hit him very hard, but what she's actually trying to do is get this shield to hit his arm that's holding the knife so he drops it. And he does. It's right there behind him. It's pretty successful. Go back, just watch that a little bit again. Just around that boom. She hits him. The other cops got him. They came from two different directions. They did a little bit of a trip there, a little bit of a foot sweep. So he like kicked that ankle, I think, and then she's just trying to stay on top. He might have another knife. I was just trying to get right back to the action. Yeah. Oh, so he's put his foot. This foot here belongs to the male police officer. He's got it out behind him. So there is judo happening here. It's just not as big and fancy as I would like. He's knocked that foot up, so he's only got one foot on the ground. That foot's not touching the ground anymore. He's tried to really establish himself. He's still got his feet behind him, though, and that's why he's not going to be able to stay standing up. They changed his weight to the back of his heels. You can see he's only standing on that heel. He's collapsed his leg. He's going to fall down. And then he's on the ground. And Sato is like, huh? Where all these people come from? They're wrestling. Oh, and Sato, you moron. I better get my my delivery package out of here. Oh, I'm just going to go. Wow, that was weird. That dude bugs me more than anything else in this video. Yeah. So they took him down. They didn't hurt him. They didn't shoot him. It was perfectly safe. And he's lived to tell the tale. He's going to go to jail. We are going to get to find out maybe why he was doing this, which would be interesting. But, oh my God, sorry. Dave's position right now. I don't want to make any noise in case he gets up. Check that out. That is dog who has found the spot where the air conditioner blowing sort of hits the floor. Oh, he's rolled over. I don't want to disturb him too much. He's kind of, maybe, I don't know.